And we are recording. What's up, buddy?
Hello. It's been a minute.
It's been a long minute since we've done a podcast. We've been
Yeah,
a little bit busy. A little
a
bit
little
busy.
bit. Yeah,
Mostly
yeah.
my fault too for just continuously pushing this off. So everybody in the
Hey,
internet can blame me. That's okay.
hey, we're making a comeback.
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to get on here a little bit today and just discuss kind of what's been going on with Ascend, what's new, kind of where we're at. It's been since before quarterfinals.
I want to say the last one was the videos we made for the Open.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been quite a little while since we have done a podcast. So obviously a lot has happened since then. We had quarterfinals, we had semifinals. Um, so yeah, man, I guess we could start with quarterfinals, even though I didn't really
Yeah,
put that in our notes because to be honest, I completely didn't realize it had been since before quarterfinals
right.
that we did one of these. So quarterfinals, how did you think that went, man?
Uh, yeah, it feels like last year. It feels like years ago.
It does.
Uh, but no, quarterfinals I think went really well for us, and we had a ton of people. Uh,
Over
30 plus.
30 plus, yeah.
Yeah. People. And I think a lot of them did really well given the amount of people we had at semifinals.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
even just off of that ratio that we had from that, like we had what, 12 people at semifinals?
We had the team and then we had 5 individuals, so 9 and then a lady who was in a team in the East. So that's 10 there and then if you count um age group, we had another, right? Cuz Angelina
Uh,
was semis? Yeah.
no, Angelina
No,
was
Angela's
quarters.
quarters, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think we had
So age
any
group.
age group this year for semis, but we had some that were top 100 for sure, so they were closer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
that being said, that's about 30% of the time of our quarterfinal qualifying to semifinal. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a good group who came out and showed out and got to semifinals. We also had a lot of athletes on site for quarterfinals, which was really fun. Um, a little bit
Yeah,
hectic managing people's schedules and kind of that whole thing while keeping the affiliate doing its thing, but it was a lot of fun too.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it was good to have
And
those athletes on site and kind of work with them
what
in person.
what do you think about the workouts themselves?
Oh gosh, what even were the quarterfinals workouts? I don't remember anymore. No, I not to turn this into a workout recap podcast because that is not the point, but I was fine with quarterfinals for what they were. My biggest gripe was probably like most people, the crossover double unders or the crossover single unders in hindsight, but just is what it is. We had a
Yeah,
job to do and we just got to do the task that we're given. I do think, as many people have discussed, the biggest takeaway from quarterfinals was the premium on being able to do high skill, high fatigue movements under a lot of fatigue.
yeah, yeah. And I would say also like this quarterfinals was different from previous ones by emphasizing the strength component.
Yeah. Yeah. He just tests it in a different way,
Yeah, yeah.
right? He just tests it in a different way. So, but yeah, quarterfinals was great. Obviously, semifinals was a lot of fun as well. We had 5 indies in the West and then a team. And then we had, like I said, one girl out on a team in the East. Did I say
Hmm.
East or West?
You said it right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
In the West, or she was in the East on a team. Uh, so
You you
Pasadena was
went
busy.
to you went to the West, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I went out to Pasadena. A lot of fun there. Um, cool venue. I enjoyed it. That was actually my first time in California,
Hmm.
so that was nice. Really good food. It's a
Hmm.
little expensive out there, but that's okay.
Yep.
There was a Starbucks right by the convention center, so that was great for me. Uh,
But for everybody.
for everybody. Oh yeah, that Starbucks was busy. I
Yeah.
got there pretty early most days, and there was a line.
Yeah.
So No, it was a good
Absolutely.
time. But the athletes who went out and represented us at semis did phenomenal. Ended up having a team punch their ticket to the CrossFit Games, Team Einhorn Ascend,
Yeah.
and then Kelly punched her ticket as well. A little bit of a dramatic finish. I have to,
Tell me about it. We
I
all
have
got
to,
paralyzed there.
I have to continuously give her a hard time for that for the rest of forever because I lost minutes off my life because of that. No,
Yeah.
she was in the last event and very sprinty event, as everybody should know at this point. And who, if anybody doesn't know what happened at this point, I'd be surprised if they follow the CrossFit space. But trying to run really fast with a heavy sandbag when you're under a lot of fatigue, sometimes you make little mistakes and you fall down. But that's okay. She got back up, she got across the line, and still had done enough throughout the weekend to punch her ticket to Madison. So
And that's her first time as an individual in the CrossFit Games.
correct. Yep.
That's awesome. And
Yep.
it's the same for Einhorn, right?
Yeah, it's the first time those four people have been to the games on a
That's
team.
awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a busy weekend. It was a fun weekend, but it was awesome, man. It was awesome.
What was your biggest take aside from people punching their tickets? What was your like? Oh, I learned that from this weekend.
Ooh. Hmm. There's way more changes and things that go on in the back than anybody has any idea.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Talking about like, are you talking about like heats
It,
and timings and stuff like that, or what are you?
heats and timings, standards, equipment, the whole
It's a
the whole
whole lot
thing.
more dynamic than people think it is.
Yeah, it's not just this set in stone, pretty little orchestrated thing. It's very much controlled chaos,
Right.
which most competitions are. But I think sometimes a competition of that level, people think it's more fine
Well,
tuned.
you also don't see it, so you see a fine-tuned product,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was. I liked most of the semifinal tests. I would say. Again, not to. This is more of a recap of what we've been doing, but not a workout review episode. But I have some gripes here and there, like everybody else, but I don't
We're
honestly
not gonna
feel
dive
like
into that.
I just I don't have I don't have words to say that haven't been said already at this point by
Yeah,
other coaches and athletes in the space, and we're all aware of what the issues were. So there's
that's
no
fair.
point in rehashing it, right?
Right. So, aside from semifinals, what has Ascend been doing for the people who didn't make it semifinals so far?
Yeah, so our athletes who finished up quarterfinals and did not make semifinals, they went into a little bit of a deload, and then they went into their first kind of off-season block.
That also includes people who didn't make it to quarterfinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we peak everybody because quarterfinals and semifinals is kind of, or quarterfinals in the open is kind of so close. All of our individual athletes who are shooting for semis and doing quarters, our open athletes are still on a very similar peaking structure. And then if they just don't make quarterfinals, then their individual coaches kind of start their deload process a little bit sooner
Hmm.
versus the people who make quarterfinals and then compete that quarterfinals weekend. Um, so those athletes all had a little bit of a deload, and then they went through their first kind of off-season block, which entailed a lot of positional work on the lifting, a lot of tempo work, trying to readdress some technical issues and things like that that kind of get swept under the rug a little bit when you're in the competitive season. Um, a lot of zone two work, a lot of bodybuilding work, a lot of strict gymnastics work, strict pull ups, dips, that kind of stuff. Taking a big step back for those athletes from the super high intensity CrossFit style stuff all the time
Yeah.
and really trying to shorten up their time in the gym as well, give them a little bit of a mental break. So they did their first 8-week cycle, and now we are in the second 8-week cycle of that, which will be wrapping up in a couple weeks. And
Hmm.
then we'll have a little bit of a deload, and then we'll be going into our next cycle, which is kind of the what I would call the tail end of the purest off season.
Hmm.
for those athletes. Um, we like to take a lot of time to build our athletes across the mid fall, winter, and into the spring to really layer in those adaptations and give them a lot of time and practice to, be ready for the open or quarterfinals.
Right.
So when I think off season and when I talk about off season, I think like full blown off season, right? Like we're
Mhm.
way pulled back, not doing that much CrossFit, not doing that much zone two, not worrying about how many times a week we're doing toe to bar or anything like that, right? So when this next cycle ends, we'll be deviating from that a little bit and it'll be a little bit more CrossFit, but it's still very much a out of season focus in terms of doing couplets of things to practice combinations together, mostly interval work, right? Like still very much in that out of season learning phase and things like that. And it's just the very beginning blocks of that build for our athletes. But that won't start until September. So,
Hmm.
and then
So right
obviously,
now we're like in the separation of the elements kind of deal.
yeah, exactly. We're doing CrossFit still, but there's very much an emphasis on single modality work, single modality gymnastics, single modality weightlifting, single modality cardio and conditioning
Right.
work and machines and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, then the semifinals athletes who wrapped up their kind of semifinals season, they had a deload, right?
That was like
They,
May.
yeah, so they will actually wait a little while to even start their kind of preseason ish time frame, just because beyond reasonable doubt, they should have a good shot to make semis again. And it becomes more of the game of trying to peak them for semifinals to have a good performance there versus, the couple athletes that I particularly coached this year. It was we peak you for quarterfinals to make semis, and then we just go to semis and we try to peak again, but we do what we can, right?
Right. Right.
It's hard to truly peak an athlete twice in a 8-week time span.
Quarter. Yeah.
It's really hard. So,
All right. It
um,
sounds like a lot of different tracks, if you may,
mhm.
for different expectations, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a cornerstone of how we do things with our individual athletes, right? We, as the coaches, all sit down and discuss timelines and dates and all of those different things like that. But
Hmm.
the nuance comes in what we do for our individual athletes and where they're at in a particular time of the year and how far their season goes, what they have in the off season.
Right.
We have several athletes doing a competition here in Texas at the end of August. Another handful doing a slightly bigger competition in Louisiana at the end of August, which is a pretty competitive competition. So some of those athletes are kind of going into a little mini comp prep right now, right?
Right.
So having those one-on-one coaches and what we do here is allows us to kind of keep with that long-term plan, but also prep our athletes a little bit more specifically for a small comp they might want to do well in to get some
Right.
more experience and things like that
Right.
without totally deviating from our annual periodization, our annual plan.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
one of the biggest things that I think is advantageous about having a coach from Ascend is our ability and the detailed approach we take to that kind of stuff. Because there's a lot of people in the space who would like, oh, you're just going to go do this comp. Okay, just go do this comp and don't deviate from your annual plan. Um, and just
Or the
understand you're
opposite.
not going to do great. Yeah, or the opposite. Like you deviate entirely from your annual plan. You spend 6 weeks getting ready for this comp. You wreck yourself, and then you need 2 weeks off because you're wrecked, and then this, that, and the other. Right. So
Yeah, and then you're starting over regardless of where you are in the season.
right. Yeah. So that's the kind of fickle thing with those comps is making sure you're not building too much fatigue, but also that your athletes are prepared in a sense to where they feel like they can go be competitive and have a good time.
Hmm.
Right.
Yep,
Um, what else do we have new from Ascend? We do have summer apparel currently
that is
out.
true. Very
So
flowery, very, very fresh.
very flowery, very fresh, flowery,
Flowery.
Flowery.
Let me ask you though. Aside from the shirts, and also if I'm sure you were gonna say, but like there are our games athletes shirt that for both Einhorn and Kelly, if you guys want to
Mhm.
support them.
Yep.
But my question for you is, what are the people who made it to the games? How are they training now? So we've discussed the semifinal athletes, we discussed the quarterfinal. What about people who made it to the games? How is their training different from the rest of the year?
Well, they're doing a whole lot of fitness for starts.
Well, that's fair,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's probably the biggest difference if we looked
right?
at an off-season athlete training cycle right now versus a CrossFit Games preparing athlete, and we're what, just over, well, we're like right at 3 weeks out right now.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, they're entering and in the thickest of the thick in terms of total training volume and things like that. Whereas one of our athletes in the off season, like I said, it's like, I really don't want you in the gym for more than like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer if your lifestyle supports that. Maybe, but I really don't want you in there that long. Um,
Let me just for like an average for just a funny comparison as how many as opposed to how many for like Kelly.
uh, depending depending on the day, 6-ish hours, give
T
or
minus.
take. Yeah, it's almost easier to count the hours that she's not in the gym than the
Fair
hours
enough.
that she is in the gym.
Or like
Uh,
because right now also she can be outside of the gym. She's still training. She's like on the bike or in the pool
sure.
or in the lake, like whatever it is.
Yeah. So there's even a lot of outside of the gym time, like you said, we're longer running, longer swimming, pool workouts, longer bike rides, and things like that. Still doing CrossFit, obviously, for those athletes on the team side and for Kelly on the individual side. A lot more of the games style stuff we might see: yokes, axle, bar, sandbag, more of that.
Mm.
Just kind of those specific things. And then obviously working on the skills that are
Skills.
a little
Yeah.
bit outside the box. So those things, and, trying to prepare for some of the possibly unknown things too, just in case. But I think the games is a fun thing in the sense where, I don't know, sometimes I think we coaches all run around and act like we know what we're preparing people
I
for
mean the
the
unknown is gonna be
games.
unknown. Yeah.
But like we could get there, and I mean, it could be the first day, and they could be like, "Cool, you're doing a full Ironman," and we'd be like,
Mm. Yeah, I don't think
"Fuck."
anybody saw the marathon row before it came.
Right. And it's just, yeah. So it's like, I mean, those are some conversations like Kelly and I have had. It's like, I mean, they could make you run a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it would be the best call from a programming perspective, but they could do it. Right. So and also just with some of the more random stuff you see, it's like, I take the viewpoint of, I want to have my athletes going and be prepared to be adaptable and athletic for
Yeah,
the
so you kind of mentally prepare them like, hey, you might get phased. So like get your nerves out. Shake your nerves out.
yeah, well, yeah, we're definitely doing some of that, like, hey, this is going to be really, really hard
Hmm.
stuff to get them ready for really, really hard stuff. But also just, I just think the games does put a little bit of a premium on if you can pick up a skill in 25 minutes
Yeah. Yeah.
and at least perform it with some modicum of proficiency.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like, if you can do that, and if you can train your athletes in a way where they have the bandwidth and the proprioception and the confidence in their ability to pick up, get told they have to figure out how to do something, and you guys go over there for the coach, and the athlete goes over there for 20 minutes if you have time, and you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, like I saw Kelly train on Saturday and I had to like, hey, are you okay?
She had a pretty big Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, I agree with you. I think they just have to. And I even asked her that, like, I've told her, like, is it really the fun part of the season? And she said, like, it's just stuff that you're not doing mostly within the season. Like,
Mhm.
go on a 3 mile run with a sandbag or, like, jump in the pool after that or
Right.
run on the parallel bars. So it's just stuff that you won't see programmed for the open, you know.
Yeah, I think games athletes like to say like, "Oh, games training is the funnest time of the year," but I think it's all just novelty.
It's the
Cuz
new thing. I was
right,
like, oh,
it's
okay.
games training is not fun.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot and it's hard, right? And you're putting in a lot of hard effort. So it's like it's fun because you're doing those new things or different things and it's
Right.
refreshing to your mind versus in the old school days when the open was the gatekeeper to semifinal or to regionals, like nobody liked open prep because they knew what it was. Like you're going to do
You're gonna
thousands of
hurt.
thrusters and burpees as hard as you can
Yeah.
and you're going to do that for a month.
Right.
So whereas this is more refreshing because you just
And
don't
there's
know.
enough of it to not be the same thing every day.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can do different stuff and you're still not covering everything.
Yeah, it's an impossible thing. I mean, you and I have talked about this. Like I went pretty deep in the rabbit hole in semifinals prep for trying to prepare and predict and like have a good idea. And I couldn't even imagine trying to do that for the games.
Hmm.
There's too
Yeah.
many. HQ and Bosman and Dave have way too many options and things that they can pull out that like I couldn't even consider as a coach because I don't even like I don't know the city of Madison. Like, you
Yeah, the
know,
capital. Yeah.
yeah, this is a great example. Like, if you'd have told me last year, like, oh, the capital of Madison is close enough, they can run to it and like
And then
do all
pick
this
up
stuff,
jerry cans and who's effects and
I
I'm
would have been
like,
like, what? I didn't,
yeah,
whatever. Like, could they do that event? Sure. But would I have known that they, like, logistically with the distance from the stadium to the capital could have done it to the capital of Madison? I was like, I have no fucking idea.
right.
Like, I've been to Madison
And,
once
and having the pig flips,
in the state.
as a
Yeah.
buy-in. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so I think it's better, like, to just prepare your athletes to be adaptable and fit, and then
Yeah.
they just got to take care of the rest themselves because you're not going to, I think, trying to, if you're a type A person like me, you would go insane trying to predict
Right.
what they could do at the games.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Uh, what else do we have coming up for Ascend? So the games, we have, like I said, we have the athletes competing in the end of August at the BCS Classic in College Station and WAD Gods. I love the comp. I hate the name.
Mhm.
I
We
hate
were
it
just
so
talking
much.
about that earlier today.
I hate the name. Anyways, but I love the comp. WAD Gods, if any of y'all watch this, y'all run an amazing competition. I just wish you
Mhm.
changed the name. Um, so that's in Shreveport at the end of August.
And then
And
TFX follows, or TFX qualifiers follow. The
October
fittest experience, usually in October. I don't remember if they
beginning.
announced it yet.
Mm-mm.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
Uh,
qualifiers for that will be coming up for a lot of our athletes.
right, and a whole lot of like Wadapalooza. It's
Yeah,
just a mixture of stuff
kind
at
of the
this point.
off. It's like the off-season gambit
Right.
starts going at kind of
Where are you gonna go?
the end of August, early September, and then through
Hmm.
kind of October. So
Yeah. Yeah, they try to squeeze it in before the holidays, and then you get the holidays off, and then you go to the open, basically.
then you go to the events and then do the open. Yeah,
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
yeah, because most of the events are after
January.
January. They're in January after the holiday break. Yep. Oh, what else has been going on, my man? This is so informal of a podcast for us, but we haven't done one of these in so long. I just don't want to miss anything. And
Yeah,
you and I both run around like psychos half the time, so we tend to remember things while we're talking about it.
absolutely. We are. I mean, we can put out a little teaser for September.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Uh,
we are working on and going to be hosting the first Ascend athlete camp out here in Houston, Texas in September. I was actually working on the outline for that this morning that I believe I shared with you.
mhm.
Don't know if you looked at it yet or not, but so we're going to get those dates finalized probably in the next 48 to 72 hours, and then start putting out more of that information for you guys. But yeah, Ascend Athlete Camp, September. Exact dates to follow very soon. That'll be on our Instagram to check that out. So
Yep,
it'll be
I'm
a good
excited about
time.
that.
Yeah, full 3-day camp, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It'll obviously be in the evening to start on Friday, and then we'll wrap up by like noon,
Sunday. Yeah.
so that people can get back out of town and get back to their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm super excited about that. Super excited to have a bunch of athletes on site for that. Hopefully, some of our semifinal athletes come help out. Some of our quarterfinal athletes and other athletes who, are just getting coached by myself or you or
Yeah.
Carrie. Hopefully, they can come out and going to do the whole thing, breakout sessions, some lectures, lots of working out, all that stuff. But also, it's not an exclusive Ascend Athlete Camp. So
Yeah.
this is open to all athletes, any skill level, any age level, masters, teens, the whole works. You don't have to be an Ascend athlete to come. If you just want to come, learn, hang out, see how we do things, see our philosophy on things, see if you vibe with us, we'd love to have you, help you out, and
Mm-hmm.
meet you. So yeah, I'm super excited about that.
I'm excited that it's not in the very, very hot months of the summer.
I'm gonna be real, dude. You'd be hard pressed to get me. You'd be hard pressed to convince me to host a camp in the summer here.
Yeah, I mean that's
Not
still
not
kind of the summer, but it's like
Yeah, but
the
it's way
lighter
better.
summer.
It's way
Yeah,
better.
the
And
lighter summer.
it's not only from a personal misery standpoint. It's from how do I even ask somebody to come here? Like,
True.
hey, I want you to come to Houston
Here's the
and
thing,
work
though.
out with
Like,
me when it's 110 degrees and 90% humidity.
I think people who haven't experienced Houston won't know better, but it's the people who live here. They won't want to come.
Yeah, like we would no local or semi-local athletes. They'd be like, no way.
Nope.
Not a chance, bro.
I agree.
Uh, yeah, no,
No, but
September I
it's
think is a good
exciting.
time.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm excited to see like a bunch of very different levels at the same time, just different backgrounds of athletes, different expectations, different goals, kind of sit down together, learn, work out, and get to know each other. We have a big roster of athletes on Ascend that haven't met each other mostly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big driver for us with wanting to put this together is give everybody an opportunity to come together and just kind of hang out because we have athletes who have been with us as coaches and with Ascend for over a year
Hmm.
and they've never met another Ascend athlete.
Right.
So, yeah,
And it'll
get
be good
everybody together.
for all the local comps after, especially if somebody's looking to do like a partner or a team comp, get to know each other, get to work out with each other in the camp.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's full steam into the off season, really.
Preseason.
Well, yeah, preseason. Sorry.
Yeah.
Words are hard. Yeah, preseason.
Yeah.
I get more excited for the preseason cycles than probably any other cycle of the year.
Yeah, because it's common between almost everybody, but also two, it's basically I don't know. Maybe they keep saying games training is the best, but I feel like just you're doing purely CrossFit at this point,
Yeah, yeah, there's more of an emphasis
or the
in
in-season
CrossFit
cycle.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also it's the cycles where athletes can learn the most.
Right.
And to me, that's what actually propels them forward for the season.
I
Like
agree.
if you do the programming and try hard, we're gonna make you fitter.
Right.
That's not like whatever. But
Yeah.
it's if you take the preseason cycle seriously and learn yourself as an athlete and what your paces are, what your sets on certain movements are, and then we do that so early in the preseason that by the time the season comes, that's when it's cool because athletes look back and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so much fitter."
Hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're fitter at the right time.
Right. Right. I
So,
agree. I feel like right now is like, okay, learn more about yourself, learn your skills, learn your stuff like that, and then let's see how we can make that into fitness.
Yeah. Yeah, from a programming perspective, it's just I guess it's a different kind of enjoyment because
Hmm.
like with that cycle, it's like you know what the athletes can get out of it
Hmm.
versus like writing games prep or semis prep. It's like, whew, what kind of crazy shit can I come up with? You know what I mean? Like it's so it's like a little bit of a different thing. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
really good and intentional. And like games prep and semis prep is intentional too, but you're just very much more like, ooh, what kind of nasty workouts can I cook up?
How high can I set the bar?
Yeah, exactly. Like how far can I push these guys?
Yeah.
Versus that's a good way to think about it. For depending on the athlete, quarters prep, this will be good to end on. Quarters prep, semis prep, games prep is how far can you push yourself?
Right.
Or for me as a coach, how far can I push you? Preseason is how much can you learn about yourself
Hmm.
so that you can be pushed later.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at those kind of the differences and the emphasis on those kind of different cycles. So
Yeah. An off season, just forget that you're a CrossFit athlete for a second, and let's actually do better
forget
in each element.
forget that you're a CrossFitter. I want you to pretend you're a hybrid athlete who does weightlifting, endurance sports, and bodybuilding and
Decathlete.
gymnastics. Yeah, I want you to pretend you're a decathlete for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And when you do a Metcon, like do it and pay attention to it and go hard. But like, I
Look
mean,
for small lessons to learn. Don't look for a score.
yeah, I mean, some of my athletes might get salty, and some of my coaches, some other coaches might disagree with me, but I don't give a shit about somebody's Metcon score in fucking June. I don't
That's fair.
care. It's more so you can continue to do CrossFit and you don't forget how
See,
to
see,
play the sport.
when I'm coaching my athletes specifically during this phase, I look at how they broke the workout down and
Exactly.
what their thought process was, and that's what I comment about.
Exactly.
Right. Like I get a lot of questions like, what do you think is a good goal? I was like, I want you to go and do that in 2 sets. I
Right.
don't care how fast to do that. I just want you to do it in 2 sets.
Exactly.
So that's the difference. And I feel like the closer you get to the open, the closer you want to like, okay, let's focus on speed, let's focus on like efficiency, all that. Right
Yeah.
now, I just want you to know that you're capable to do that
Yeah.
in 2 sets.
Yeah. The big thing for me too is I want athletes to remember how to play the sport.
Hmm.
And this is something I think is talked about a little bit, but I know I probably talk about more than I've heard most other coaches talk about is like doing a Metcon, like a traditional AMRAP 15, 5 rounds for time, whatever the fuck, with weightlifting, monostructural, and gymnastics. That's that's the equivalent of you going out and playing a soccer match
Hmm.
or playing a football game.
Hmm.
You're playing the sport. Sure, it's also conditioning for the sport. Yeah, okay, I get it. Our sport is whatever. That's not the
Yeah.
point. So we keep doing a little bit of Metcons in the off season because I don't want you to forget how to do a 15-minute AMRAP.
Right.
Right? Because you kind of know, you look at a workout, you're like, 15 minutes. I need to pace myself a little bit, can't go too crazy. I'm going to be here a second. But if
Hmm.
you don't do a 15-minute AMRAP for 4 months, then you're going to do one and you're going to be like, oh, I fucking got this. And you get
Hmm.
5 minutes in and you're like, oh shit, I
Yeah.
do not have this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like the only reason, really, the
More
only
like
reason
maintenance,
that we
maintenance of the stimulus.
keep Metcons in their pure form a couple times a week in the off season.
Hmm.
So you don't forget how to play the sport. Because then
I
we'd have a
agree.
longer learning curve when we go back to the season and the
Right.
preseason, and then that would just be annoying, right?
Right.
So,
Well, I'm excited about preseason now that we've talked too much about it.
dude, I know it's going to be exciting. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was looking at some of the calendar stuff, and I was like, oh man, I was looking back at some old workouts from like the last year and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, these are
Hmm.
great. I can't wait to make these worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I think it's going to be exciting times, and I know that we are going to have a little bit of a spike in our schedules with Kelly and Einhorn, following by with the local competitions right after. We
yep,
have like I don't know, 20 plus athletes competing in those competitions.
I
Big
stopped
number of
counting,
people.
to be
Yeah.
honest.
But after that, the camp, and we're gonna just start, refining the art.
Yep, it'll be
Um,
busy. Slow feet don't eat though. So,
Yeah. And again, if you guys want to learn more about Ascend or you want to learn more about one-on-one coaching, you always can visit our link in the website, the link in our Instagram bio.
Yep.
We can have a free consultation for just
Yes.
one-on-one. Or if you're interested in following one of our blogs, we have our train blog, which is just I want to just continue staying fit. I don't really care about quarterfinals, semifinals. I'm just trying to learn some stuff and be fit. For right now, I want to do well in the open, or if you want to compete at local competitions and go to quarterfinals and further, then I will go for the compete blog.
Absolutely. Yep. And like you said, we have consultations for individual athletes who are looking for one-on-one coaching. Those are absolutely free. Our coaches would love to sit down with you, just learn about you, see if you're a fit.
Expanding on that, we also have our women's specialty coach, Coach Veronica, that we just added to the team.
We fucked this whole thing. We
We
hired
should have
two
started with
coaches. We
that.
hired two coaches. I didn't say a fucking thing about it.
Should have started with
This
that.
is why, for everybody who watches this is why Mahmoud's here, because I can't be trusted to be in charge of anything and remember everything. So yes, go ahead. Talk about V,
Yeah,
and then I will talk about Brady, and then we'll shut up because we've already went over too.
that's fine. Veronica Trevino, she is a wonderful coach. She's a level 2 coach. She is a women's specialist coach. She is a prepartum, postpartum coach as well. And she actually acquired those two certificates, the two last ones, while she was pregnant. And then through her uh, postnatal journey. She was a teacher by nature, so she just has a lot of passion towards empowering women and making your journey through whatever, like whether prenatal or postnatal, your journey empowering, healthy, and make sure that you are fit if that's what you desire to continue to get through. So
Yep.
if you are interested, also find it in our link below or in the bio.
Yeah.
And then Coach Brady, you want to talk about him for a second?
Yeah, so Coach Brady, he came on recently with us. Brady is a CFL2 coach, almost a decade of experience coaching in the space, both in person and remote. Has some remote design experience, his program for affiliates, competed at Wadapalooza, kind of those off-season bigger competitions on some teams. Was at team semifinals this last year with a team from around here in Houston. Brady's a stud of a coach. He's been in the space a long, long time. Really great guy. Really excellent. Probably his best. One of my favorite things about Brady is his ability to communicate what exactly he wants an athlete to do and coach them through a progression or a skill movement or a skill transfer movement or something like that for an Olympic lift or a skill movement or something like that. So yeah,
Mhm.
awesome coach, knows his stuff. I make the joke, uh, if you're over 6'2" and you're good at CrossFit, you probably know something. So, and
Yeah,
Brady's like 6'4", so there's that, right?
that's fair. Yep.
Uh, but yeah, Brady's awesome addition and Veronica awesome additions to the team. So thank you. You saved this because if we would have forgot, we would have redone this. You know that, right? It's like
Well, I'm glad. I'm
we
glad
can't
I.
do we can't do a what's new with the Send podcast and literally not talk about the two coaches we just brought on board. Gosh, that would have been freaking nightmare. So
And last thing is, if you guys were with Coach Hattie and you've been doing a skill, you know, Coach Hattie is our gymnastics coach, and she's competed at semifinals as well, which was amazing and inspiring. But she also now is taking clients full on.
yes,
So if you guys want to have her do your whole programming, she's also available in our team.
absolutely. Yes. Cool.
Yeah. All
Did we
right.
do it?
Well, expect more episodes more frequently. That's the
Yes.
goal. Fingers
Yes.
crossed.
Fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that
Yeah.
stuff. No.
But
We have
we'll
plenty of
see.
things to discuss and go over. We need to talk about the next cycle coming up. That we can obviously preview the preseason and get some of the
Yeah.
coaches on here, learn about them, and we're gonna do a better job at this. So
Awesome. Can't wait.
cool. Well, appreciate everybody who tunes in and takes a look. And if you're interested to find out more about Ascend Athlete, just head to the link below or check us out on Instagram at Ascend Athlete.
Or even the shirts for Ascend